Hi everyone, today I'm really excited to have a conversation with vintage fashionista and my good friend Amy. She's here to talk today about secondhand and vintage shopping, including how to find those diamonds in the rough, how to make your outfit really stand out. Amy and I have actually known each other since 5th grade, and we've gone on many little thrift shopping adventures. Amy previously co-founded a vintage pop-up shop based here in Minneapolis with her sister, where they want to help their clients celebrate being an individual and experiment with self-expression through fashion. When I interviewed them in the past about their shop, they talked about helping people take risks with their style. They also talked about coming from a mixed-race family and having a desire to make everyone feel included and welcome in the world and their shop. Amy truly has an artist brain. She's bursting with creativity, so I'm excited that now Amy's going out on her own to create a new online shop, so you can shop it from anywhere. It's called Riley House. Riley House includes a very curated set of vintage pieces, dresses, sweaters, blouses, and bottoms, as well as handcrafted, one-of-a-kind jewelry. It's a high-end, thoughtfully edited line of clothing, and I personally adore the pieces in this shop. We'll talk more about it later, but let's get into the interview about vintage and thrift shopping. Welcome, Amy, and thank you for being here.
Thanks, Aylin. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, I just appreciate you coming here because for me, vintage and secondhand shopping is a toughie. Like, sometimes I'll go to the thrift store and I'm just like, I don't know where to start. And sometimes I'll see something that like looks interesting, but I don't know if it'll pan out in the real world. You know what I mean? Like if I'll actually wear it or if it fits in with my wardrobe. So I just have a lot of questions.
Fun. Okay.
So I first wanted to ask, how did you first get into vintage shopping?
I guess I first started developing an interest in vintage shopping as like a little nugget because my mom was a stay-at-home mom for a decent portion of my childhood. And so our daycare was just like being with my mom or being with my aunts. When I say we, I also mean with a handful of my cousins who are a similar age. So I think like as something to do, we would always like walk to a garage sale or walk to the thrift store because it was a cheap way to like keep us busy and like you can buy us something to make us feel better at an inexpensive price. And so maybe that's like when the seed was planted. But my grandma also is an avid deal shopper lady. She would always take us also to garage sales, and she was the type of woman who would be like, this says it's 50 cents, but could it be a quarter? You know? And she was so cute that no one could say no.
Love that.
Yeah. So I think, yeah, just a lot of thrifty ladies inspiring me at a young age.
I really love that because, I don't know, it just kind of reflects something about vintage shopping in general. I feel like it weirdly connects people in a way that even other types of shopping doesn't. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I feel like once I go to a thrift or vintage shop with somebody, it like takes our relationship forward on some level. Maybe that's a weird thing, but it's like we went thrift shopping together.
Yeah, there's nothing glamorous about it. I feel like you like really gotta, there's sweat and yeah.
Maybe some tears.
Odd characters surrounding you.
Yeah.
It's no Banana Republic. Nobody's asking how you're doing. Yeah. Yeah.
But like it's also fun and energetic in a different way.
It is.
I mean, based on your experience, what do you think people should keep an eye out for when they're vintage shopping and looking for those perfect pieces to add to their wardrobes?
I think it probably just depends on what your style is or what you're looking for. For me, it's hard. I feel like it kind of depends on the place I go to, but in general, I'm always looking first at like what's gonna jump out at me on the rack. So it's usually like a fabric or a color or a texture that I'm like, I can tell that this is like nice, if that makes sense. And sometimes I'm fooled by like a Target brand or whatever. So I think the second thing is I always check the tag. And the third thing is I examine the product to make sure there are no flaws, no like pilling, no holes, no stains. And then I personally have really sensitive skin, so I also like to look at the details of like what it's made out of. You know, is it acrylic? Because then I probably won't wear it as much because it's not going to be as comfortable or whatever. So, I don't know. Those are just like a few things that, like my little checklist.
Yeah, that's smart. Like, normally when I go, I don't think about all that. Like, I'll just immediately go for, like, do I like this overall or not?
Yeah.
And then later, once I get up to the cash register, I'm like, oh, there's, like, a stain on it. And
well, then that happens, too.
Yeah.
And you have to, like, a lot of thrift stores are dark, which I feel like isn't intentional because they, like, don't want you to catch some of those things.
Oh.
I don't know. But you really gotta inspect. There's gotta be a part of the shopping where you're, like, narrowing down what you want and, like, taking a moment to go through each thing and compare, like, what you've collected and be like, okay, do I want this or this? And outweigh, like, the benefits and the pros and cons, and sometimes the stains or the pilling or the holes will do it for you. But yeah, interesting. I never thought of you as somebody who would struggle with vintage shopping, just because I've always admired your, like, selections from vintage stores.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I'm shocked by that, but
really?
That's a huge compliment coming from you on this topic.
Okay,
wow.
Well,
you just made my day.
I think you're a pro.
I'm also curious about personal style from you, because you just exude personal style. Like, you come into a room and I feel like you feel your energy and it's like a distinct perspective. Do you have any recommendations for people on how they can curate their own personal style, or like what goes into that?
That's a great question, because I feel like personal style is ever evolving. And I think, like, if I think back on, like, in high school, for instance, I was big into, like, vintage shopping, specifically, like, vintage, like, Zooey Deschanel vintage girl clothes. And now that doesn't resonate with me and my style as much. And I just think about how that has shifted throughout the years, and I think, like, just living your life and personal experiences and, like, traveling and meeting new people and getting inspired through different avenues is kind of how it starts, and how you start to play with things and explore things and make it uniquely you. And that's kind of what I'm trying to do for myself with Riley House. Like, I think the new project of Riley House is really that. It's like exploring all things of beauty, all things of inspiration, with courage and fearlessness, and, like, trying new things and playing with new things and not worrying so much about, like, how I look or how I'm perceived, but just, like, allowing yourself to be excited about developing your own unique style and bringing your own unique, like, soul into what you wear. Because for some reason, like, if I put together an outfit in the morning, 99% of the time I'm like, ugh, I feel awful today, you know?
I know that feeling.
But there's something about, like, I love this piece of clothing and I love this piece. You know, just, like, finding those elements in your wardrobe that are just go-tos, and then mixing them in with other things and playing with it. And there's some sort of, like, creative power, like, that I think comes with giving yourself the ability to do that. So I don't know. I did have a thing that I thought about before coming here that I wanted to share with everybody. So Iris Apfel is a, like, businesswoman and a fashion lady, and she's really cool. Look her up. But I saw something on Instagram where she was being interviewed, and she said, being stylish and being fashionable are two entirely different things. You can easily buy your way into being fashionable. Style, I think, is in your DNA. It implies originality and courage. The worst that can happen when you take a risk is that you fail, and you don't die from that. And I just frickin' love that.
Yeah, I love that. Tell me your interpretation of that.
Because I think I get so annoyed with capitalism and with, like, trends. there's something about trends that's fun and inspiring to me, but then there's something that's like, I think people become too reliant on it and then they lose their self in what they're wearing, and then through that lose like a sense of their own uniqueness, you know?
Yeah.
So coincidentally, Riley House, I picked Riley because it's my grandma's maiden name. And growing up, I always wished my name was Riley. So I was like, I'm going to do Riley, and then House plays into my family, my last name, my family name. But I spelled it wrong by accident. I was like, Mom, how do you spell a grandma's maiden name? And she told me. I was like, okay, well, I already put this out in the world. And I Googled the spelling that I did, and it said that that spelling of Riley is Gaelic, which is also Irish, which is my grandma's history. But it said the definition was valiant and like courageous. And I was like, I just love that. Like that totally resonates with everything I want this project to be. I think initially Riley House came to me as like, I need an outlet, I need a creative outlet. And I've heard throughout, you know, my young adult life that I have a skill or an eye about curating images and colors and patterns. And I get complimented sometimes on what I wear. Not all the time.
I've seen you complimented so many times, and you just like shrug it off because you get so many. But yeah, continue.
I don't think it's not. But I was just like, why not be courageous? And why not have a valiant exploration of all these beautiful things? Like, let's not put ourselves in a box here. Like, I'm just going to pull from everything I love, whether it's art or music or poetry or fashion and high fashion or whatever. Like, it's just been really fun to not put limits on the project and just allow myself to fail and play and explore, and hopefully something good will come from it.
I love that. I mean, I feel like I keep saying I love that in this conversation, but like everything you're saying is just really resonating. I don't want to take this like too far, but I feel like even what you're saying is a philosophically inspiring thing for anyone pursuing anything. It's kind of like, go courageously into the things that you're passionate about.
Yes.
And make mistakes, try again. And I think also, even if your big passion is something other than fashion, you also can do that with fashion. And it can be a fun space to try things out and to gradually develop your own perspective. And also what I love about how I initially asked you, like, how do you develop your own personal style? But I feel like so often I hear a response to that, like, do these 3 or 5 things and then you'll be at your style.
Yeah.
But having a perspective is different from that. And it develops over time, it changes. And so I love that concept. And that's also why I'm kind of excited about Riley House. It's all so new.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to be shopping there. I've already purchased something from there, which we can talk about. But is there anything else you want to explain about Riley House, or like if people are interested in shopping at your shop, like what they would expect to find or what kind of pieces you offer?
Yeah. So I think it stems from my own personal frustration about how poor I am. Like my mom has always told me, you better have somebody who has a lot of money, or you better make a lot of money because you got really expensive taste. And I do. Like, I have a talent for what I'm doing now, but I also have a talent for loving the most expensive thing anywhere.
Like, you have an eye for it.
Yes.
And you will pick it and then find out it's like the most expensive.
Yeah. It's really annoying. So that frustrates me because I'm always wanting to blow my whole paycheck on like some high-end something or other. And I see it like beautifully advertised or modeled, or I see like a celebrity or whoever wearing it who I admire their style, and I'm like, oh, I want to emulate that. So what I'm trying to house within Riley House is a collection of, it's going to be one of a kind, because right now it's all going to be vintage, or, you know, I don't know what and everyone considers to be vintage, but I'm a little bit flex. I'm like, early 2000s to me is also vintage, because there are designers that were exploring the trends that are present today back then, and they weren't maybe executed at a time where people were receiving them in the same way as they are now. But I think what I have fun doing is investigating those things and being like, oh, like, nobody even remembers this designer, but their pieces are out there. They're gently used, if worn at all. Like, a lot of things that I find are still brand new with tags on, but they're just like 20 years in the past, wanting to make their way into the present and have another life where they can exist and be relevant to what's happening in the fashion world. I think a lot of what I get is inspired by up-and-coming designers. Like, I love learning about people who are newly creating things, and this is probably why I have expensive taste. Like, I just have an admiration for people who are really good at the craft of making clothing and have like a vision of how to tweak vintage styles that were popular or have been popular for decades and make them just like a little bit different, to the point where you're like, ooh, I need that because that's new and rare and unique. But it's not really. Like, I just think a lot of things are repeated. So yeah, I try to curate high quality vintage. So I try to be very selective about what I put on my site. It also sucks because I usually want to own everything on there. So a lot of it, like, I'm like, oh, it doesn't fit me. Great. Somebody else can buy it, you know? But yeah, I try to find higher end designer things. If not that, I love looking for, like, in the fall, vintage hand knit items that I think is really cool, because I'm gravitated towards that. Like, I'm like, oh, I want that alpaca hand knit sweater that's $500 because I want it. Like, it's hand knit, like it's, you know, soft, it's gonna be cozy, and then I'll like resist and like do a little research and like do a little looking around, and I'll find literally close to an exact replica of that item. 99% of the time. I feel like lately that's my new thing. I'm like, oh, I want that. Like, I need to buy that $300 thing. And then I'm like, hold up, Amy. Like, like, practice what you're preaching here. And I'll just do a little searching, and I'm like, oh yeah. And I just saved myself, you know, hundreds of dollars. So it's interesting.
What's so great about that is that all of us want to do that. Like, all of us want to find the expensive thing for way less, but it just takes so much time, especially for most of us who like, don't know how to do that. And so I feel like it's cool that you're creating this shop that probably is a bit more affordable than some of these, even some of these places that are, you know, mass distributed stuff that's like trying to be cool. You're finding it and you're sharing that with people, and you're doing all the work, which is a lot of hard work. And so I don't know, it's like a fun way to shop, I think, from my perspective.
Like within Riley House? Good.
So speaking of which, I did get this necklace from Riley House. I don't know if you've noticed it, but I think it's absolutely gorgeous.
The one and only, but also the first one I ever made, which is special.
This is the first one you ever made? I feel so special.
You should. No, I'm just kidding.
I do. Well,
you are special.
This is a piece of history right here.
It is. And that inspired me to keep making more, because I made it for myself. I had like a few things lying around the house that I like loved, different pieces. And I was like, oh, like the earring that this came from is broken, or I don't like the chain that this is on, or I don't have a chain for this, or like I like this one bead on this one thing, but I'm never gonna wear that ugly necklace that I bought. And so, yeah, I just started playing for myself. And so I looked in my stuff, and that's how that came to life. And then I wore it to, like, this Minnesota State Fair, and all these stylish people were like, oh, I love your necklace.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, really? And I was
Wow.
like, I made it. Kind of like, you like this? And they were like, oh, do you have a shop? And I was like, no, but maybe I will.
Oh
like,
my
if you want to
gosh.
buy this. So
then you started that. So you also have a line of handcrafted jewelry in
Yeah.
addition to like these curated pieces that kind of range in what they are.
Yes. So I literally just hodgepodge threw together Riley House within a few weeks as far as it coming to life on a physical website, because I've never done that before, and it was very overwhelming for me to do the digital like mastering of all of that.
Yeah.
It's sweaty, it's stressful.
Yeah.
But so the night before it launched, like, I was like, I'm gonna put all the pictures of the items and everything's gonna be ready to go and people can shop it. I was like, I'm just gonna try to make a few necklaces to sell. And then that's how I launched my first collection of charm necklaces. Was literally, I think, either the night before or day of me just like at my desk making stuff.
Wow.
And yeah, and I got a really great response from people like you and from people whose style I admire and opinions I respect and believe.
Well,
So, yeah.
I definitely am a big fan, and I'm just so glad you've started this, and I know it's all so fresh and new, but honestly, even your story is kind of inspiring as far as like starting a small business and just like dipping your toes in and jumping in when you don't know 100% initially what you're doing, but you're just jumping in and you're doing it because you have a passion.
Yeah. Yeah. I also think it's just hard to be a woman in the world and to succeed, honestly. Like, I work a desk job and I'm just like, this is not for me. Ultimately, this is not where I see myself going in my life, but I don't know how to be taken seriously.
Yeah.
Especially in, like, the arts world without, like, a degree in design or this and that. So, Riley House is a little bit like my own playground of like, what can I do? What can I push myself to feel confident enough to say my background is maybe more colorful than people who like went to college and did the thing for the thing. But that doesn't mean that I'm not an artist, and that doesn't mean that what I'm creating isn't good or can't be good.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of, I'm rolling with that. Hopefully.
I love it.
Yeah. Hopefully it works out.
Yes. I mean, I'm excited to see it grow and to see what you do with it. Already, I'm just like blown away. So
Thanks, Aylin.
I'm just glad that you are doing it.
Aylin has also been a huge inspiration because I feel like for the last 5 years, you're always like, Amy, just do it. Just do something with your vintage. So...
Yeah, I have been, because, I mean, this also isn't your first rodeo, like you did have your other shop and also, but, like, I do feel like this is you kind of going out on your own and, like, really being like, I am doing this very specific curation.
Yeah.
Which is, like, very you, like, you're really forging your path in a cool way. Yeah, I feel like we covered a lot. Is there anything else that you'd like to share, I guess, with my audience about secondhand or vintage, or about Riley House, or about your journey? I mean, I almost feel like the best part of this whole video is just hearing about your story, because I feel like it's something that like people can resonate with. And yeah, I don't know, it's just like, honestly, Amy, you're one of the most creative, artistic people I know, and so just to see you finally taking that risk for yourself, on yourself, is really exciting and honestly inspiring. So
Thanks.
it's pretty cool.
Thanks, Aylin.
Anyway, I just answered my own question. Do you have anything else that you want to add?
What she said. I don't know. I think also, like, life, it's always a learning lesson, and I feel like I'm constantly failing, and to the point where I'm like, okay, here we go again, let's just start over. But I don't know. I feel really excited about this project in a different way. Like you said, I had that previous thing, which was it exists kind of with my sister. But I've never explored something that is just me, and it's what I like and what I find attractive and interesting, and yeah, I just feel like it's more uniquely me than just being like, I like vintage, and like, there's a lot of thought and heart being put into it, which I hope people will feel when they look at it. I've been really into researching just artists and art and people's processes. And one of the main takeaways that I've been like seeing over and over as far as their advice as like growing as an artist is to fail and to like embrace failing. And it appears the greatest artists of great are great because they took those risks and because they made those mistakes and failures, which actually turned out to be masterpieces, you know?
Yeah.
So that's been inspiring me too. Maybe it'll inspire you too.
Yeah, it totally is inspiring me.
Oh, good.
And I also have to say, I just want to put a quick plug in that if you guys are interested in Riley House, in purchasing something, or even just kind of browsing and getting some inspiration, I'd highly encourage you to follow Riley House on Instagram, and also, you know, check out the website. I'll link all that information in the description box below. And again, even if you're not ready to purchase or anything, because on this channel I'm all about not pressuring purchases or forcing anything, but I actually really enjoy her Instagram feed purely for like the artistic curation and the images and the quotes and the just the overall aesthetic of what I see, and I find that creatively stimulating. So if you liked our conversation today, I would just encourage you to at least give her a follow and follow her journey. I'm really excited to see where it goes, I have to say.
Thanks, Aylin. I'm excited to see where yours goes.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. I'm so grateful you took the time to chat, and I feel like people are really going to take a lot from this. So if you enjoyed this video, tell Amy you're supporting her. Comment below, because I feel like she needs that. Well, she doesn't need that support. You can fail, but
yeah, you can be like, you suck, Amy, and I'll be like, maybe I do. But anyway, let's lift each other up, you know?
Yeah, totally. Why not? Okay, well, I guess that's all we've got for you. We're gonna go hang out. And
yeah, bye.
Thanks for just spending some time with us.
Thank you.
I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye. I love when we both automatically wave.